Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Swire. You can also call me the promo guy. Today, we have Ashley Micciche. She is the CEO of True North Retirement Advisor, a family run advisory firm. She specializes in the unique needs and challenges that small business owners face and help them create highly customizable, successful exit planning. A frequent podcast guest and experienced on-stage speaker, Ashley is not your typical financial presenter. A four times humorous speech champion. I'm going to ask Ashley more about that. She brings her award winning style to delight an engagement audience. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Thank you, Swire. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I love your bio. And then before we start, would you mind to give us a quick bio? And then how did you get into the exiting business?
Sure. Well, like many things, I kind of fell into it by accident. So I actually started my first business when I was 8 years old. If you went out of town, I would feed your cat, water your plants, pick up your mail and your paper for $3 a day, which I thought
Mm.
I was going to get rich quick doing that. And when you're 8 years old, though, I mean, it's a lot. And so I ended up accumulating this clientele in my neighborhood, and I had so much business after the first year that I really had to start turning people away. So I thought, wow, this business thing, like, I just have to open up shop and post a few flyers and people will just flock to me. And so I started life with the impression that running a business is easy, which of course is not the case at all. But I did that for a few years, and fast forward to college, I ended up getting a finance degree in school. And then my father has actually been a financial advisor since 1982. And I never intended to join him, but after getting a finance degree, I thought, well, I'll try this out. I actually like the numbers side of it, but I wasn't sure what being a financial advisor actually meant. And so it was just an easy way to kind of plug into what my father was doing and join him in his practice. And over 13 years later, here I am still. So I really love it. But when I started out working with him, he's always been the type of dad who would like never let me win anything, or he's very competitive and I'm very competitive. And so he wisely knew that I needed to kind of figure out my own path and my own way. And so I actually started out, for the first couple of years of my career, I started cold calling, and I did that for 2 years. And through that, I started actually calling on business owners, so small business owners. And I would not just pick up the phone and call them; I would actually like walk in and talk to them. And one of the things that I stumbled upon really early in my career that I found I enjoyed doing and I had a skill set for was 401k plan consulting. And so I started working with a bunch of different business owners with their 401k plans. But then through that, I realized that, hey, a lot of these owners are close to retirement. They have this business that has some value to it. But I found that most of them were just not doing the planning necessary to get to the finish line. A lot of them were just locking the door one last time and walking away. I had a client who died very suddenly of a heart attack in his 50s. And I kind of watched from the sidelines as his business fell apart. And lost a lot of their employees. His wife, who hadn't worked in the business previously, had to come in and run it. And it was just a very chaotic time. And so that was really the catalyst for starting to go down that path, is the death of that client that I had, because I saw how devastating it can be when you don't plan and you don't do the things necessary. And then as I started doing more of it, I realized that for small business, if you're a big business, if your business is worth $100 million, you have people banging down your door trying to help you sell your business or transfer your business. But if you're a smaller business, if your business is worth $1 million, $3 million, $5 million, $10 million, in that range, then there's not a lot of help out there for those business owners. And so that's kind of the sweet spot where I live, and helping to plan and do the exit planning, which is basically creating a roadmap for selling your business on your terms, your timeline to the person you choose for the money that you need. It's like retirement planning and financial planning on steroids, and so that's what I do for clients, and kind of how I got to where I am today.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think a couple of things that you didn't touch on, but I see on your website is small business owners sometimes they get burned out after certain years. They might want something new to do, but then they didn't just want to give up what they've built. It's their baby, right? It's their brainchild.
Right.
But then the question will be, and sharing from my personal experience, me and my wife are business partner. We built our first business in CD and DVD replication, and we got burned out after about 10 years or so, and we wanted to sell it. But then when we know, just like the, the example you gave us, we didn't know what our value is worth for the company. We thought that we have a good client base, we have a unique business. Is Then we contact a business broker, and then he said that based on the type of business, you do your revenue times X, and that's the
Mm.
formula for industry. So we felt like it's a lot of cookie cutters, but we didn't have good advice at that time, so we didn't know what our business is worth. So how would you advise a client, and I know that you have a specific formula to help them. Is it something difficult to do? How easy to find out the value of a company?
Yeah, what you're describing in your personal experience is very, very common. A lot of business owners don't know what their business is worth, or they rely on a rule of thumb, like you mentioned, of, oh, in your industry, three times revenue, or two, five times EBITDA, or, whatever that is for a particular industry. It varies. But with technology today, it is so much easier to get a very accurate valuation. And so, what we do, and we make available to our clients and anybody who wants to use this, because I found that it is the first step. If you do not know what your business is worth, you cannot embark on an exit path. You're going to get stuck somewhere, or you're going to make a lot of wrong turns. So, we have to understand what the business is worth today. So it's critical to do that. But it's also a lot easier than it was even 5 years ago to do that. So we use a software tool that has 50 million businesses in the database, and you enter your industry, some few basic pieces of information like your revenue, pre-tax income, but some other metrics as well that will help refine and hone in on that accurate valuation. And I
Hmm.
find that it's just a few pieces of data, very high level data. You can pull it from your income statement, your balance sheet, your tax return from last year. So it's all accessible data that hopefully you have, unless your books are a complete mess. But that's another discussion. So, but about eight pieces of information will get you a very accurate valuation, and it's free. And you can go and update your valuation at any time. You can see, oh, if I grow my revenue from this to this, how does that impact the valuation? So you can also use it as a planning tool, to help you see what are the levers you can pull to increase the value if the business is not worth what you need it to be to embark on that exit path.
Well, I like that. I love technology. It's kind of like Indeed with searching jobs. So if you are, manager in marketing and what size company, then this is probably the range that you have. So is it kind of like that? You're pulling data from other business who have sold, and then to see where you're at within the range.
Right. Yeah. It's I use an example of a dental practice quite often, and when I give presentations on stage and things like that. And so just using that as an example, if you're an office of dentists, there's like 600,000 offices of dentists in this database. So no matter where you're located, no matter what type of dental practice you have, you're going to have really good comparative data. Um, and we didn't develop the software, we subscribe to it. We actually pay a monthly fee to have access to this software tool, and then we turn around and make it available to anybody who wants to use it. So we found that with my clients, if we embark on an exit strategy and we don't know the valuation, or we can't get on the same page about the valuation, or inevitably a lot of business owners, they're glass half full kind of people, so they may think that their business is worth 10 million, if it's worth 5 million, we need to figure out what's driving that. And if you do need it to be worth 10 million before you exit, then we shouldn't be going down this exit path, or go too far down that path if we need to still grow the business, because of course that can take time.
It's actually a very good tools because when you're a big corporation, you know that when you wanted to do certain things, you need to improve on maybe your equipment, maybe your revenue better. But for a small business owner, we don't really have anything to gauge on. Money are coming in, right? We're making good business, but then on the outside, uh, there are people who is willing to pay money to buy a business. Sometimes, I think a lot of small business owner will ask them questions themselves, but having the tools and seeing the data, then it gives them a better picture, I would call it. So whatever that they need to do before they sell, they can actually plan for it, or they are actually at that level right now. So having all those data is very important.
Right. And even for an inside transfer, like if you wanted to transfer your business to an employee or to a family member, which actually most business transfers today are some type of inside transfer. It's a more common scenario versus selling your business. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But so evaluation will help you decide how we're going to begin transferring this business in a tax efficient way so that you can get the money you need as well. So it's essential for any type of exit path, whether you're looking to sell your business or transfer it inside.
Great. I wanted to switch topics real quick. I know that you're a 4 times humorous speech champion. I do wanted to ask your advice for public speaking. Are there any tips that you can share, and how do you work to become a 4 time humorous speech champion?
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, because I spend most of my time these days giving speeches about business exit planning and financial topics, which does not lend itself to humor. But if for you or anybody in your audience who has ever given a speech, if the purpose of the speech is to be funny, but you can't really tell jokes, so it's not a cheesy kind of thing. It's humor mainly through stories, and telling stories that have a good takeaway, where someone can benefit from that, but making it funny. Self-deprecating humor is always a great place to start. But I actually did that. I did those competitions because I knew it would up my speaking game, because it is very hard to be funny when you have to be, and you're being graded on how funny you are, and in a competition compared to how funny other people are in their speeches too. And so I knew it was going to help me um, improve my overall speaking abilities. And it's been a while since I've done a humorous speech competition. I'm probably about 5 years removed from it at this point, but it was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot mainly through incorporating stories and looking for funny moments in just your everyday life, where you're like, that happened. Okay, I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to what's a takeaway where it's not just a funny anecdote, but what's a takeaway for the audience, where the audience can benefit from that. And I have 3 kids now, and so I have multiple opportunities for humor in everyday life, just with the things that they say and do and the circumstances that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice because as I'm in a sales profession. If I just tell people our features and benefit, people tune out. But then if I'm able to tell them story or case study that happened that worked before kind of related to them, then they are willing to listen better. So whatever industry that you're in, we have, obviously financial planning jokes. We also have lawyer jokes, and we have plumber jokes, right? So by telling the right story and, obviously knowing the other person, the other counterparty, what kind of industry they're in, what kind of background that they have, we could probably see that once we have the experience, and to get stories that relate to them. So then they feel that we are part of their team and not just an outsiders who's trying to offer our products and services. So that's great
Mhm.
advice.
Yeah.
And I know that you mentioned here that you only, bring in new business by giving speeches, which you're very good at, and also by referrals. So in your business, I'm sure that this is very personal because you're, from my personal experience for selling a business, you have to tell the person every single detail, and then they will see and point out something that you might not or having a hard time to explain what it was. So how do you get about getting referrals and have getting people to trust you and build on that relationship for your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you do have to be really vulnerable when you when you embark on this exit strategy. If you're going to hire an exit planning advisor like myself, we do right off the bat, we collect a lot of information and we have some pretty deep conversations. And I'm trying to get to the root of what the owner is trying to accomplish with their business. What are their most important values? What are their goals? Because they may think that they want to go down a certain path, like selling their business, but we need to have a conversation about how an outside transfer is maybe going to change the culture of their company or impact their employees and how that might happen. So that's just one example, but yeah, so we do collect a lot of information. Everything that we talk about with our clients is confidential, and even before they sign on to become clients, one of the things that I do right off the bat is assure them that anything that they talk with me about is confidential. I'm not going to be sharing it with anybody else. That's between them and me. Um, so it's different for everybody. And, one of our core values as a company is integrity above all else. That's our first core value. And, just doing what's right for the client in all circumstances, even if if it's going to hurt us necessarily, but if putting their needs ahead of ours. And we have a fiduciary standard for all of our clients that we put into writing. So some of those things help quite a bit. But like anything else, like a friendship or any other relationship that you might develop with somebody, it's a mutual kind of feeling each other out as you go down
Mhm.
that path. And we have multiple conversations with clients. Oh, and it usually is over, maybe a month or longer. 2, 3 conversations. At least one of those is a very in-depth conversation. So we get a chance to really get to know each other pretty well before they ever sign on to become a client, and we just keep going down that path. And the goal though is that we go a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, so that at any point along the way, if we feel, you know what, I don't think that this is a good fit, or the potential client feels that way, then we can just go our separate ways, and anything that they've set up until that point is confidential anyways. We're not going to share that. So yeah, and then we getting referrals. Referrals are still our most common way, or one of the top ways that we see new clients come in, both from existing clients, but then also industry professionals. So CPAs and attorneys who know that we do this, and they have a situation come up with one of their clients. they end up sending them to us as well so that we can do that exit planning for them. Because most CPAs and most attorneys, they just stay in their lane. But our job is to be like the general contractor of the entire project and to manage all of those. They're like the plumber and the electrician. They do their piece of it, but for owners, it's essential that they have somebody who's managing the whole process. And if they try to be the general contractor themselves, they can do that, but most of them have never exited a business before. They don't necessarily know what they're doing. There's a lot of missteps you can make along the way that have serious implications. And so
There's a
our
lot of
job,
stress and that's go
yeah,
behind, and something that you're trying to explain, and obviously at that the point of selling, if you're lucky enough to find a buyer, there are a lot of explaining you have to do.
yeah. And if you have employees, how do you keep them from coming to you and wrecking the sale at the 11th hour? There are things that can go really, really wrong at many, many stages. And our job is to prevent those things from happening to the best of our ability and to put safeguards in place so that those kinds of things don't happen and we avoid missteps on the way. Also, if you've ever built a house yourself or anything like that and been a general contractor on a project, you know that it is an all encompassing project. So if you are going to do your exit right and you're going to be your general contractor, you have to accept the fact that that's going to take you away from your business and doing the day to day of your business. And so there's a lot of missteps that can be made along the way. And our job is to make sure, to the extent that we can, that those things don't happen and that we're foreseeing potential issues and safeguarding against those.
Okay, I want to ask you this question. For people who are planning for exiting, I think 2020, I could speak for a lot of small business owners, been a crazy year.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have business that are struggling. On the other hand, depending on the type of business that you're in, you might be doing really well, right? And I'm sure that a lot of us are thinking, the way that we do things right now, all this business that we're doing worthwhile. So I would think, and tell me if it's just right, that people are actually considering more for exiting because there might be something that they realize that they wanted to do, but then now, like you said, they don't know the value of it. So uh, if I, or any business owner want to think about exiting, other than the valuation, what should they plan on and ask themselves before they reach out to you?
I have several clients right now who have decided to speed up their exit plan uh, for a variety of reasons. One client in particular had their best year ever by far in 2020 because they found themselves in an industry that benefited well in COVID. And I've had other clients who have been more in the high risk category. As you get close to retirement, a lot of these owners who are exiting their business are 55, 60, 65, sometimes 70 years old. And they're in maybe a higher risk category for getting COVID if their business is decimated or big drops in valuation. I think there's an energy level there and there's this time frame that's like, you know what? I don't want to rebuild my business. I saw my revenue drop, I saw the valuation drop. Nobody saw this coming, and I no longer have the energy to continue on, or maybe a couple more years. And so, for a variety of reasons, a lot of owners who are close to that traditional retirement age are speeding up their exit. And it's actually a trend that's happening across the board. A lot of people, not just business owners, but a lot of people who work for companies right now, especially companies and industries who have been impacted negatively by coronavirus, they find themselves staring at an early retirement, um, because the company is having to go through layoffs. I just talked to a client last week who hasn't worked in 6 months. She's had a 6 month severance, and that ends in a couple months here. And so, there's just a lot of that speeding up into an early retirement. And so I would encourage owners to really think about, what that means. Where's your business today? Again, going back to the valuation, what's the business like today? And what does your path forward look like as we come out of this pandemic and as we move forward? Do we want to accelerate the exit? Do you have the energy to rebuild if you need to do that? What are your options? There's always options. It's just a matter of picking your head up and trying to look uh, at all those options rather than being discouraged, especially if you're in an industry or in a business that has suffered during this time.
Well, you actually point out one thing before we start recording on the show. If business owner is thinking about passing on their business or leaving their legacy to either the child or employees, even it's actually a good time to do it. Can you talk about a little bit about that?
Yes, this is something that is hardly ever discussed, and I find that very few owners understand. And if you have a family business and you want to gift that business to the next generation, the current tax climate for gifting is better than it's been in any of our lifetimes right now. But we have a new administration, and the administration has proposed tax increases, which will very likely impact gifting tax rules and estate tax rules. I've read through the proposals, and those estate and gift taxes do have a target on their back currently. So what's interesting though is that in 2021 now we're coming out of the pandemic. It's probably not good PR for the new administration to raise taxes this year. So owners still have some time to do some planning and get their affairs in order before taxes are likely to go up. But if the economy improves this year and things are kind of back to normal into 2022, I think you're going to see a much higher likelihood that we're going to see some tax increases. And so, currently, in the current tax environment, if you have a business that's worth, say, $10 million, you can gift that business to your child or an heir. Who you can gift that, and as long as you fall under what's called the lifetime gift tax exclusion, you can gift that without paying taxes on that gift, and the recipient doesn't pay taxes on that either. If you're married, it's like $23 million that you can gift over your lifetime. Let me see. Yeah, it's 11.58 million if you're single, and so it's double that if you're married. So you can give away a substantial amount of wealth right now, whether it's business or other assets. And as long as it falls under, as long as your lifetime gifting amount doesn't exclude that 11 and a half or $23 million threshold, then you are not going to pay taxes on that. So a lot of opportunity to gift some of the business, part of, all of the business if you're ready to embark on that. But the clock is ticking. And I don't think that those exclusion amounts are going to be there, or those exemption amounts are going to be there much longer. They were as low. If you go back to 2007, that lifetime gift exemption was only $1 million, and it's
Wow.
gone from a million to 11 million in just the last 13 years. So there you go. I mean, and it's always in flux, but it's pretty secure that there will be some type of tax increase, and likely because that lifetime gift exemption amount is so generous right now. I think that'll be one of the first areas that they look at increasing taxes on.
Okay. I want to ask you about your final thoughts. So obviously we put a lot of information out there today on the show, a lot to think about, right? Different things to consider, but knowing what we've known in 2020, and you just mentioned what the tax laws are going to be, what would you suggest, for people who are thinking, where would you point them to read up for more information?
The first thing I would hammer home for any business owner is to understand first and foremost what your business is worth. And that free tool that we make available, anybody who wants to use it can access it if you go to truenorthra.com/value my business. You'll receive a checklist where it'll help you compile all the data, and then you'll get free unlimited access to the valuation tool. So you can value your business now, a month from now, a year from now. And it's that is the place to start. I think a lot of business owners, they're kind of stuck where they are. They're not making progress on their exit simply because they're just overwhelmed with all the things that they could do, that they should do, that they're not sure if they need to do. But I can tell you with assurance that valuing your business is the first step, and that will unlock everything else and help you make progress on your exit. So if you're feeling stuck, value your business, figure out what it's worth, and you'll have a bit more clarity about how you move forward from here.
Yeah, put it in a sales term, you got to know what your net pricing are for whatever that you're trying to sell. Then you know how you can mark it up. So I think that's the key point to success is knowing what you have and available to you, and what other people view from the data that you can provide before you reach out to anyone. Because if they are interested, then if their valuations are way different than what you have, then that's how the confusion will start. I'll definitely include that link onto the show notes here, Ashley. So if viewer want to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to reach out?
Probably all my contact information is on that same link, the truenorthra.com/value my business. Anybody who wants to just chat for 10 or 15 minutes about their situation and get some guidance and direction about where to go from here, they can also book a call with me for free. And you can easily find that on our website as well.
Thank you so much for coming on, Ashley. And if you like this episode, please do leave us some feedback. Tell Ashley is a true champion. She handled it really well. You can see how she got the 4 times humorous speech champion. Like the show. Share with your friends. And until then, see you next time. Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks, Swire.
Bye.